It was the end of August, the weather was pretty nice and I was going to enjoy the end of the summer along with my girlfriend. We've been together for longer than 6 months and I have to say that I am completely in love with her. I mean, just the way my heart flutters when I get a call from her or text, it's amazing. Anyway, back to the story. After a full day of fun, when we went to the pool, went to the movies and had a lot of delicious food to eat, it was time to call it a day. I walked her home, while laughing and holding hands. It was really a great day and we didn't want it to end, but it had to. She had a class the next morning and had to get up pretty early. After a good night kiss, she got in her house, and because it was pretty nice outside, even though it was really late, I decided to walk home. I didn't live so far from her, so I thought that I could use some exercise after all the food I ate. I took out my AirPods from my pocket and started blasting some music. I was in the zone and I felt good. As I was walking, I could see in the distance a silhouette, right under a street lamp. I couldn't figure it out if it was a man or a woman. As I walked and slowly approached the street lamp, the person took a step to the side and disappeared in the darkness. He was no longer under the light and I couldn't see him anymore. Step by step, I felt like my heart was beating faster and faster. I wasn't afraid, but maybe a surge of adrenaline was going through my veins. I got closer and closer, squinting my eyes and trying to see if he was still there or not. I even reached in my pocket, took out my phone and paused the music. I was so focused. Finally, I reached the spot in which I saw him, but, to my surprise, no one was there. I felt some sort of relief, even thought that person didn't do anything to me. I kept walking towards my home while listening to music. Again, I reached the front door and as I put my hands on the knob, I heard something coming from behind me. I turned around and I saw him. It was that guy that was under the lamp earlier. He made a gesture with his hand, like telling me to come to him. I thought that it was creepy and asked him what he wanted. He didn't respond but continued to make that gesture with his hand. Finally, I turned around and entered my horn and shortly after locked the door. I went to the window to see if he was still there and, you guessed it, he was. It was almost 3 a.m. in the morning and that guy was just staying outside my home. Mum and Dad were asleep. I wanted to tell them what was going on but then I gave up on that idea. I went upstairs, brushed my teeth and went to bed. I kept thinking about that guy so I tried to ignore the thought. I took out my phone and started scrolling through meaningless posts so that I can keep my mind off of him. At about 4 a.m. I finally got sleepy. It was time to go to bed and turn off my phone, but something wasn't letting me relax. A voice in my head kept telling me to go to the window and see if that guy is still there, and so I did. I got up and went to the window only, to my surprise, to see that no one was there. Another feeling of relief took over me and melatonin finally got released into my brain, making me extra sleepy. I was completely relaxed and fell asleep in no time. The next day, my mum and dad went to work early in the morning at around 6 a.m. and I woke up at about 11 a.m. Being home alone, I went downstairs, made some breakfast and went to my office. I always watched YouTube while eating breakfast. As I was enjoying my food, a phone started ringing in the house, but my phone was right next to me and I didn't think anyone was home. Maybe my parents left one of their phones. I started looking for it. I couldn't find it anywhere. The phone kept ringing minute after minute and it drove me crazy. I called my parents and asked them if there was another phone in the house, because it was ringing and they didn't know anything about it. I kept searching again and again. Finally, I decided to check the attic. I sounded like the ringing noise came from the ceiling. I grabbed the ladder and went up there. I was right, the phone was right in the middle of the room, on the floor. I picked it up, and it said, "Unknown." I decided to answer, and after I did, all I could hear was a buzzing noise. I ended the call, took the phone with me and then went downstairs. The bad thing was it kept ringing, and each time I answered, the same buzzing noise was annoying me, so then, I decided to do something drastic. I went outside, got on my bike and went to the lake. It was not far from my house. I then threw the phone in there, so that I could get rid of that annoying ringtone and buzzing noise. After I did it, I went to my bike. As I was riding back home, I saw something inside the woods, so I stopped. It looked like a man. Even though it was daylight, I couldn't see any details, as the man was under the shadows of the trees. I didn't give it a second thought, and went back home. By that time, my parents got home. We had a dinner and I told them about the phone. They looked surprised and didn't know anything about it. I then went to bed, but a strange feeling kept me up. As I was trying to fall asleep, I could believe what I heard. It was the same annoying ringtone, but I threw the phone in the lake. How could that happen? This time, the sound came from my room. I searched everywhere and to my surprise I found the phone hidden behind a dresser. It was exactly the same phone, and when I answered, the same buzzing noise popped up. I felt like I was going insane, so I opened the window and threw it out. Again, in the front of my home, that same guy sitting there, in the darkness. As I could tell, he was doing the same gesture with his hand, telling me to come to him. I yelled and told him to go away or I will call the police. The man smiled and all I could see were his white teeth. It was pretty creepy, and the next thing I knew was him disappearing in the shadows. "You better leave," I yelled before closing my window. I went back to bed, and as I was going to fall asleep, I felt something heavy on top of me. I tried to move, while keeping my eyes shut, but I couldn't. It was like something or someone was holding me down. I opened my eyes and I saw a dark figure on top of my bed, floating. I screamed, but as soon as I did that, the thing put his hand on my mouth. I couldn't do anything. As I struggled, he finally let me free and I jumped in the corner of the room. Frightened, I kept staring at the creature, but I couldn't make out what was it. It looked like a man and the monster at the same time. The only thing I had in my head was that I am going to die and my mum and dad will find my corpse in the morning. I screamed, and soon after, Dad came into my room with a baseball bat in hand. "What happened?" he asked. I told him all about it and he reassured me that I had a bad dream, but I knew better. It felt too real to be just a nightmare. I couldn't shut my eyes for the rest of the night. Each time I did it, I felt like someone was watching me and waiting for me to fall asleep. I was still scared for my life. I kept getting out of bed and looking out of my window to see if that guy is there. I don't know what happened that night and I don't know what was it with that phone,